Hi everyone, Timothy Dunn here. Let's jump right into law number 8. And again, we're going through the 48 Laws of Power by Mr. Robert Greene. Now, law number 8 says, make other people come to you and use bait if necessary. This is very interesting because it's something that's a little more subtle, but it allows us to understand how to accumulate power within our workplace. Now, the first inscription says, when you force the other person to act, you are the one in control. It's always better to make your opponent come to you, abandoning his own plans in the process. Lure him with fabulous gains, then attack. You hold all the cards. Now that's very interesting, and this chapter talks a lot about self-discipline. Now basically, we all have experienced this. If there are certain situations in our office that we have to react to on a daily basis simply because there's such a changing world or business climate that we're in, there's usually someone that sets the tone. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure that we don't get manipulated just kind of like a puppet, and we're pulled into things that we don't want to be a part of. So the best thing to do when you see escalated emotion in your office, one of the things you want to do is say, is this legitimate or is this something that's created by another individual? And you watch the other folks that are reacting emotionally or they're moving around very quickly and they're doing things that are precipitated from this one individual's actions. The best thing that you can do, and this is a common theme throughout Robert's book, is that we need to be able to react non-emotionally and be very strategic in how we go about responding to anything that happens in our corporate environment. Now, I don't know what your situation is, but in many climates, especially at work, there's a personality there that's just bigger than life. And Robert Greene goes into the situation in this chapter. He talks about Napoleon. When Napoleon was first captured, he was put on an island that was too close to the mainland. And it actually, just by Napoleon being in jail that close to the mainland, there were certain reactions that happened among the nobles and the prominent people that were on the mainland, which caused them basically to live in fear. And this is something that happens a lot with us at work. We have to deal with a personality that may not be acting directly in our business group or our business environment, but they're so larger than life and they have so much energy, or if there's something that they get involved with, it just consumes the whole office. We tend to either give them a very wide berth or everyone responds just to their presence. So one of the things I want you to do is be aware and seek out that personality. Now, if it's you, we're going to talk about how we can utilize that to gain you some more power. But if it's not you, one of the things that I want you to do is detach the emotional rhetoric that happens with responding to that person. Now, one of the things that the chapter also talks about is how someone can actually manipulate a group of people by causing them to go around and act in a very hurried or emotional manner. If you notice something like that happening at work, I want you to figure out who the person is that's behind it. The person that actually moves forward and is emotional, or they're scurrying around, let's say there's a project that's a little bit late, or there's a big client coming in, or there's something that has to be done under a deadline, the ones that are reacting emotionally are rarely the ones that have caused the action itself. So I want you to think beyond that and find that individual, and they're the ones that are actually manipulating the power source within your environment. And it's very interesting. Once you can see that, then you can start to emotionally detach yourself, and it becomes a little bit less of a stressful game, but it also becomes a little bit more empowering for you because you're no longer giving away your power to that individual that's being manipulated. One of the things that this chapter does teach you is to think 4 or 5 moves ahead of everybody else in your office. And if you can be the one that actually sets things in motion and you sit back in a non-emotional fashion and watch the reactions of others, you're now going to have some strength that they don't have because you're going to understand how they react to certain things. It uses the example of trying to trap a bear by using honey. If you know that you're never going to be able to overpower the bear, but yet you can trap the bear by using something that's very close to them, then all of a sudden you have accumulated power over something that's much larger than yourself. It talks about a young stock person, a stockbroker, in the early 19th century that used to drop hints or notes in local bars of high-end establishments, and they would have different stocks that he was purported to buy or sell. These other people, knowing that he was very intuitive, would run out and they would buy or sell those stocks, and he would sit back and actually manipulate the behavior because his true purpose was probably completely opposite of what he had intended. So if we're going to do this, you've got to make sure that you're thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead of everyone else in your office. And it does take a good amount of planning, and it also really underlines in this chapter how you need to control your emotions. Now, last but not least, it talks about the reversal. And this is the opposite of making other people react and come to you in a very calculated manner. This is the use of expediency or aggression or something that is perceived to be an emergency or a top priority to basically shake up the opponent so that you can start to understand their behavioral tactics. Now, this is very dangerous because if you don't do this properly, you're going to get pegged as the person that's being the manipulator. And once someone thinks that you are trying to manipulate them, you obviously lose all of your power. So be very careful. If you're the one that rings the fire alarm too often, just to either get a kick out of it or to try to do a social experiment, you're going to lose the advantage. Make sure that you never do this too often. It's something that can backfire, and it's something that's probably not a good idea. Again, the common theme here is to keep your head, remain just a little bit mysterious, and try to be as quiet as possible while you start to calculate your way through what's actually happening around you. Remember, the common theme is that if you can make someone come to you, they lose their strength. If they're chasing you or they're chasing what they believe to be a priority and it ends up with you, they come to you in a weaker state, and that's how you accumulate power. Don't be that individual that is running down rabbit holes and chasing things that aren't pertinent and giving away your power to someone that you obviously wouldn't even think of it if they had asked you directly. So just be very careful. Well, I hope this has been helpful. This is a little bit more deep, in some of these upcoming chapters, but I want to thank you again for going through this journey with me. I'm learning a lot. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I want you to go out and be successful, and I can't wait to get back in touch with you with Law number 9. Thanks again.